Welcome back to Unfiltered, presented by Hustle. This is Jay Skyline,
And James?
and this is the first 10. We're going to get into the first and foremost. We got the high school playoffs out here in Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania. What Beals, as always, before we get into the PIAA. And we had some pretty big games this weekend, guys. We had upsets. We had first and foremost, Westinghouse continuing their dominance this year. They, I think it was Fort Cherry, they beat down a Couples Field, and they are progressing in technically the District 5 playoffs because Westinghouse and the City Leagues are not in the Whitfield playoff brackets directly. They could play Whitfield teams later, and they'll, in my eyes, I think eventually they'll end up meeting Still Valley. If not Still Valley, Southern Columbia, but Southern Columbia can be like, iffy on what's going on there. So, yeah, like I said, it's just I'm happy to see what's going on other sides of things. We have teams like Bishop Canavan, Clareton upsets Olsh. Trying to think of some of the other things that were pretty big that happened. McKeesport obviously kept going with their dominance, even though people were very upset that McKeesport did not get a bye. But yeah, man, we have a lot of big. Yeah, no, there was a lot of Mapleton down in the southern half of the counties continued their undefeated season. A lot of people do not believe in Mapleton because of
They're ranked lower because
their conference this week.
Yeah. So having a weak conference makes you rank lower.
And then there's an argument that's going on between a lot of schools. Some schools have been have lost their playoff games. Not playoff games. They lost their home field advantage because there's a rule in Whitfields, which is kind of hypocritical because of where the championship game is at, where home teams are not allowed to host games if they do not have a turf field. Which,
But then you said
where's the championship game at?
on a live field.
Oh, yeah, y'all seen what that field looks like when it happens. Yeah, the Acrisure Stadium has a real grass field. So we go through the playoffs of, again, most of the teams get to host their home games, and the teams that don't are usually, now this is where the discrepancy is. Most teams that don't get to host their home games are teams that can't afford turf fields. What schools usually can't afford turf fields unless they're like Stowe Rocks, who have NFL players who help pitch in, which I'm not stunting on that. That's a great thing. But most teams in that scenario are lower income neighborhoods. The same thing with like Aliquippa gets their new stadium. I'm pretty sure the field will be turf. But like before that, Aliquippa hasn't hosted a playoff game in like 40 years.
That's pretty rough.
And that's low-key, that's been the reason. Clareton used to have that issue. Jeanette used to have that issue. Those are all small towns. So yeah, usually their games get moved out of where they play at, and I don't think it's always fair. Again, if you can have like legit proof that the field isn't maintained well by the field facility and all that, that's one thing. But when you just say flat out like, "Hey, we're just not doing this," that's different. So, like I said, it's just a. Go ahead.
You think these schools are gonna change the turf, try to get like for the future? I mean, shouldn't like the upkeep's not that much?
It's not the upkeep. It's kind of like the general spending of that much money on just football.
Yeah. I mean, if your school's been killing it all these years, I think, hey, get them the turf so then they can have that home field advantage.
So I'm going to run through some of the playoff matchups for this week. Again, the ones that are bigger, we might give our opinions on. This is not like picks. I'm not going to make these type of decisions on high school players. I just want them to have fun with some of their last years of freedom. So some of the bigger matchups, 6A, we have Cannon Mac and North Allegheny in Central Catholic versus Mount Lebanon. Both of those teams, 6A schools, huge. They're playing at their home fields. Mm-hmm. One of the matchups that, at least because I'm from the southern part of the region, is more. It's interesting to me, even though I don't care about either two of these schools. They're way past my tax bracket. Bethel Park in the semifinals of 5A versus Upper St. Clair. That's rich people fighting. That's all that is. Like, both teams are really good, but that's rich people. That's very, very upper middle class people from Bethel Park arguing with like legitimately rich people from Upper St. Clair. Like, we're not that different. It's like, no, you're still peasants to us. And hopefully our kids will show you that. So, and that one's at Cannon Mac. At this point in the playoffs, for their part, semifinal games are played on neutral sites. So that one's different. Woodland Hills gets to go against Pine Richland. Woodland Hills is having a renaissance. They're 6-5. That was a rough season for them to make the playoffs, but they did it. This is the one that's big for me personally because again, I think this is the toughest class in all of PIA, not just Whitfields, all of PIA. 4A, we have Montour against Aliquippa at Freedom. This year, Freedom is their home field because of the stadium renovations, so that one's normal. We have McKeesport at Armstrong. That's a big one. McKeesport 10-1, only losing one game, last game of the season against TJ. Armstrong, I'm not that big on Armstrong, but they're 10-1, and people seem happy about it this year. I'm still rolling with McKeesport there. We got Laurel Highlands 8-2 against Central Valley. If I'm really sure, Laurel Highlands won their first playoff game in like 40 years this weekend. So that's a big.
They might not make it. You don't think?
Oh hell no, they're not beating Central Valley. Central Valley has only lost one game in 4 years, and that was a few weeks ago to Aliquippa. And before that, they had beaten Aliquippa back-to-back years. They're the defending champions of 3A. They moved up to 4A this year. Like, if they can keep it close with Central Valley, they should be happy. But I don't think they're going to do that. And the last game, Latrobe against TJ at TJ. That's another school close to us. That's usually a juggernaut for them. But, like, I don't know. Latrobe has had a decent year. So we're going to see what happens there. I'm going to get through these last couple divisions. We got 3A, Bell Vernon continuing their march. Bell Vernon has Quentin Martin, a division, the only 5A talent out of Whipples in a few years. He's still getting courted by a few schools. They'll be going against East Allegheny. We got Beaver going against Avonworth. That's a rivalry game out there for them. So that one will be played at Avonworth. And then this one's a shocking one. This team is up and down a lot. We have Shadyside Academy against Elizabeth Forward, 9-1. Elizabeth Forward only loss, I'm pretty sure, is to Bell Vernon. So that one's a big one. Again, Elizabeth Forward was just a weird school district. It's down on the Mon, but it's like that Mon school that nobody really kicks it with.
Damn.
No, seriously, hey, you all know somebody from Duquesne, McKeesport, Clarendon, the Woodland Hills area of Homestead. How many people y'all really got from like the EF school? Even like a lot of people got people from Menneson and stuff like that, but y'all ain't really got no Elizabeth people.
All right,
just saying that. For the 2A, I have fun with this one. We got McGuffey at Still Valley. I think Still Valley's gonna get through that. We got Washington at Neshannock. I just love
Washington and Neshannock. God damn, that's one hell of a ride.
Yeah.
You're talking 3 hours.
That's one of those ones where when Neshannock's still because they're 10-1 now. When a team like Neshannock keeps winning and there's so we're gonna have to schedule this. We're gonna have to do this. We didn't think these schools from that far because they're up north, right?
About
they're
2 hours.
Yeah, that's one of those where you're especially the split from Washington to Neshannock. Either way, y'all screwed. But y'all got to play this game at some point.
Yeah.
We got Ligonier versus Beaver Falls, but this one's at Geneva College. And then we got Keystone Oaks at Stowe Rocks. That's basically two schools that people think are city schools, but they aren't city schools.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Stowe Rocks there. And at the very bottom, we got the Class A quarterfinals. We got Bishop Canavan 10-1 versus Clarendon at Dormont Stadium. Clarendon still reeling. They got the revenge game against Olsh last week, because they lost to Olsh earlier in the season. So that's a toss-up.
Yeah.
After that, we got Southside at Wayne. Mapleton versus Southside Beaver. Southside Beaver, I don't know. There's no, because they always just put Southside there, and I'm like, every part of our county has their own Southside, but it's usually Southside Beaver.
Yeah.
Going against Mapleton, who's still undefeated. Hey, I'm outside of the fact that I guess my rooting for it would be Clarendon and Rochester. We'll get to Rochester a little later. I just think the Mapleton story is cool. Because the school, like I was reading about it, Mapleton apparently only graduates 43 to 50 kids a year.
Damn.
Yeah, it's one of the smallest schools in the state. Again, this is Class A. So for them to have a 10-0 season, I'm just I'm happy for y'all.
Yeah.
Keep going. I don't know the demographic of the school. It could be the country's people out there. There might not be a black person at the school, but I'm just hey, for 50 people, get it. After that, we got the Laurel versus Union, two schools I know nothing about. At Shenango, which is another place I don't really know. I know where Shenango is, but that's about it. That game is way up north, actually. If I think about it.
Huh.
And then the last game, we had Rochester with the upset win last week against Sierra Catholic, the defending champions out of McKeesport. They're out at South Fayette playing Fort Cherry. And that's it, man. Like I said, keep a lookout for these high school games. I'm going to try to get out to the Westinghouse game against, I think it's called Berlin. I don't know where Berlin, PA is at. I'm sure the high school names are probably different.
Where the chips are made?
You're probably right.
Snyder chips, yeah.
I thought that was like I'm just gonna stop. But the game is out at Somerset High School. It's about an hour and a half away, but I'm thinking about making the trip.
Okay.
So, but yeah, man, that's the top 10, y'all. Just wanted to give y'all a local flavor this week, and let's go. First 10.